January the 20th, 1981, the day Ronald Reagan took over as the President of the United States. The Reverend Jesse Jackson was there during the inauguration, and he recalled seeing all the private planes and the stretch limos. About a month later, he gave an interview with one of the national newspapers, magazines, and he said, and I quote, "The working middle class of America is headed for some very hard times like this country has never seen." This statement stuck in my mind for a number of reasons. First of all, Ronald Reagan had this arrogant, charismatic attitude that, from the standpoint of being the most powerful man on earth, it kind of struck me as being kind of scary. He was a tall, handsome, professionally trained actor. He could say anything with a straight face. During his first tenure, he brought forward what he called the Reaganomics. Government cannot solve the problem. Government is the problem, he said. And America, the middle class of America just stood up and cheered like never before. Little did they know, what he really meant was, let's take a multi-billion-dollar industry, let's turn it over to some educated, Ivy League educated, people on Wall Street, with little morals. No regulations are needed. Okay? Let them make their own rules. Don't worry. They'll follow to the T. And America will be better off in the long run. People on Wall Street have one thing in mind. That's to make money. The more the better. By hook or crook, lovers of money have about as much moral as a serial killer. Fast forward to 2000, the George W. Bush era begins. Limited government and personal responsibility policies continue. At this point in time, the financial woes of America, which is at the worst point since the Great Depression of the 1930s, is spread around the world. The Reagan doctrine and conservative policies of the Republican Party were only good for one thing. What they did was, they gave the key to the hen house to a bunch of Ivy League professional, people on Wall Street, foxes, and they have cleaned out middle class America to the tune of $1 trillion. But now, I'm not going to totally blame the Republican Party, for this whole mess. Washington, D.C., as well as Wall Street, had to have a hand in this thing to make the whole thing work. Now, investment firms, banks, mortgage companies, underwriters had to have a coordinated role to make the whole thing work. James Carville has predicted that the Democrats will control Washington, D.C. for the next 40 years. I think that's a stretch, but it doesn't look good for the GOP. With people like Rush Limbaugh, Dick Cheney, Sarah Palin, and Newt Gingrich doing the talking for the party, Democrats control Washington, D.C. for the next 100 years. Here's a few ideas that might help your party, GOP. First of all, stop the angry infighting, the name-calling, backstabbing. You guys sound like a bunch of my drunken relatives on a barbecue or something. Anger stagnates rational thought. First, now look, admit to the American people that the majority of this crisis was caused by the Republican deregulatory policies. Then sit down for peaceful dialogue. Because until you come up with a better plan for recovery, you should not talk down at what's going on right now. You gotta educate. If you calm down, what little moral character that's inside will come to the forefront. We need another voice in America, to make the whole thing work better. We need all educated man to get us out of this thing. The baby boomers are old, and so are their political policies. You guys can still be conservative as you want to be. Come up with a plan that's good for all Americans, not only the rich. Yeah, he come up with something that's good for all Americans. Black, white, Hispanic, Oriental, young and old. Now that's something we all can conserve. Thank you, America. Keep the faith.